back, friends. You're just in time for the Johnny Brew Show.
What's going on, everybody? My name is John Brookhagen, host of the Johnny Brew Show, and thank you very much for joining us on this special edition where we're going to be covering the latest school board meeting. Check out tonight, as I'm going to be talking a little bit about Afghanistan and horrible transgressions that's going on over there over the past week. This is a special live episode because it's about the school board meeting. It's about public comment. It's about what you guys want to see from our schools. This particular board meeting focused a lot around anti-racism policy and what that means in relation to the anti-bullying policy, so on and so forth. We also talk a little bit about the substitute situation as well as the budget overall. But most of the public comments were going towards this anti-racism policy. And it's somewhat of a controversy when I think it's really less of a controversy than people seem to think. I think more so than the anti-racist curriculum versus the classical curriculum, where we're a little bit more polarized. I think this anti-racism policy, the media is getting us more polarized than we need to be. I mean, there's certain aspects of it that we do need to address and we do need to debate. But overall, whether you're a grassroots conservative or you're a screaming progressive, all of us want our children to go to school and be in a safe environment, free and void of hate, of being bullied, whether racially or for fatness or for sexuality or for religion, whatever the case may be. We all want our children to go to school, get a good education, which they are not doing so much, and be safe. So I have a lot to say about a lot of these things. I'm sure a lot of you do too. This is exactly what we're going to be doing. You're going to have to, you could text me your thoughts at 702-501-5304. That's 702-501-5304. Write it down just like I did. It should be on the screen as well. You can text me your comments as we go through the public comments in response to what you hear. Or if you would like to call and join us live on the show, simply text us your name and what you want to speak about. That's my screening process. If I see you text me your name, for example, Juggalo Patriot's watching right now. If he wants to share a comment, all he has to do is text and I'll read his comment live on the air. If he wants to join us, all he has to do is type in Juggalo Patriot, anti-racist curriculum, and then I'll just hit the phone, I'll call him, and you guys will be joining me instantaneously live. All right? So with that said, we're going to get started with the public comment because we're going to be going through everything as we go through the comments. I've got plenty to say. First up in public comment, beautiful producer at 1455, this is Jamie Dzinski talking about the mass cultural competency. Play tape.
I have the timer there. Go ahead, Jamie.
Awesome. So Jimmy Tadrinsky for the record, and I have 4 items that I would like to speak on. 3.03, cultural competency. 3.05, exam fees for the College Board. 3.11, personnel employment, and 3.12, class size reduction. Excuse me.
What?
In consideration of 3.03, the cultural competency plan for East Tech, I am in support of cultural competency training. However, it is my hope that the district will once again be vibrant enough.
We can't hear you.
Sorry.
Can you get closer to the microphone? I'd like to hear what you have to say.
I think she's wearing
no
5
problem.
masks.
Oh, hold on. I can actually. I have like this cool little mask. Is that better? Okay. I have like this little mask protector for my kids.
All right.
Okay, so in consideration,
That's fine.
3.03,
My point is, This is what they want our children to look like and sound like when they're in class. You can't understand anybody. You can't see a smile. You can't communicate effectively. These kids already have so much trouble communicating effectively. They're all so shy and withdrawn. And now you're giving them these masks, tell them to double mask and put in these like devices, and they can't talk to each other. They can't understand each other. Teachers don't understand what they're saying. Nobody has any kind of sociological skills. And this is what they want all of our children to look and sound like. Now if we go to 1740, and this should be Autumn Tampa, I believe. We'll find out.
We're struggling as educators. We have over 800 positions open. Last meeting I told you that I was teaching a math class as a history teacher. I'm still teaching that math class. That math class is currently overcrowded. Today I taught two different classes at once. I had two completely different rosters, two completely different subjects in my classroom at the same time. Once again, I had kids on the floor. We don't have enough teachers. We don't have enough subs. We don't have enough people from the district offices that were put back into the classroom this week. It's just, we're on fire. We're on fire, and the district is pouring gasoline on that fire.
All right. She does bring up a good point, though. The classes are so overcrowded. We don't have enough teachers. And this goes back for the past, since I've moved here 16 years ago, but even more so recently. And I don't know, before I was the Johnny Bruce Show, I was on the Vegas Take, representing, the situation with the teacher strike. And I told you that CCSD just implemented these horrible policies against teachers, so they would strike against those policies, and then when they said those policies are gone, then the teachers came back off a strike, having never addressed the original problems of mostly teacher pay, teacher sense of importance, teacher when you feel better about something. I'm sorry, I'm having a brain fart. Moving on, we're going to go to 24 minutes. This is Autumn Tampa, talking again about safety and emotional health.
As an individual, children are the world's most valuable resource. Please do everything you can to protect their health and their lives. I did not want to come in person tonight because I do not feel safe in public places with crowds of people I do not know. However, I felt it important to come speak the truth, even if I had to risk my health. Quote, the administration at Rancho High School proposes to contract with Project HEAL to provide professional learning services to 190 site-based employees to improve the effectiveness of social, emotional, academic learning and equity efforts. This sounds like an excellent idea. With the current chaotic climate at CCSD, because of COVID-19 spreading in schools, I would hope that a program like this would help with the current deficiencies. However, the unsafe learning environments, lack of safety on buses and in schools, the lack of adequate staffing, and the lack of support from some administrators and the district all would be extremely helpful in combating these problems. Quoting Project HEAL.
She keeps talking about the problems, right? Such as she's scared to leave her house because she's afraid she's going to catch COVID. But she braved it for the children. And now she's here talking about children's emotional health. She's scared to leave her house because of a virus that's killing 0.1% of the people. And she wants people to triple mask, and she's talking about how she's scared to leave her house. And then she's talking about how CCSD isn't doing enough for the children's mental health. And with all due respect, it's people, and I don't even blame this woman. It's the media that makes this woman so scared. And then she spreads her fear to the children. And then the children are being stunted socially. And then she's complaining about the children's social health. And it's just this circular logic that we're never going to be able to give our children the education they deserve. Let's go to Jamie Sullard at 2830.
I'm here as a parent to a sixth grader in Clark County School District, and I'm excited that I get to be the first person to tell everyone in the room that may not know you plan to vote to spend $16.7 million tonight on COVID testing. 3.14 in the agenda. Imagine what we could spend that money on if we decided to stop living in fear, if we decided to stop bullying staff and students to take a shot for a virus with less than 1% morbidity for the majority of CCSD's demographic. And if we began to make policies and decisions that are supported by reason, logic, data, actual science, not just rhetoric served by big pharma elitists and corrupt politicians. That's all I have to say tonight. I'd love to say more, but I have a daughter that I need to get home in time for bed, so I cannot stay until the end of the meeting. And I want to say I support all teachers, staff, and employees that walk out or call out on September 7th. As a parent, I support.
Security. If the clapping resumes, if you do that, then we are going to be forced to clear the room. So if you want to do what you probably don't want to do, which is called the jazz hands or pantomime clapping, but you are taking away from the time of your fellow constituents to speak. So please do not have to be removed for doing something like clapping.
Guys, I watched the entire 4-hour board meeting, every excruciating minute, so that way I could bring this to you in about 2 hours. She never admonishes progressive ideas getting applause, and she always admonishes conservatives. But that's neither here nor there. A reminder, any opinion you have about this, text us 702-501-5304. If you'd like to join us live, just drop your name and the topic you'd like to talk about. Text 702-501-5304. And Jamie, thank you very much. She said, let's concentrate on what's really going on, not these propaganda pharmaceutical companies' lines of what's going on with this virus. Again, she's basically reiterating what I was saying. Thank you, Jamie. This is going to be Natalie Larson at 3035. Play tape.
Tonight, I'd like to speak about 3.13. On July 8th, this board approved a $4.8 million purchase award for testing staff and students. On August 12th, you approved a $22.2 million award, and tonight we are back asking for another $16.7 million. That is $43.7 million in total. Both the state of Nevada and CCSD are acting as practitioner in prescribing a test without the presence of symptoms. CCSD, you are not a doctor. You are not a hospital. For those that don't know, middle and high school students that are in sports and activities will be having to participate in weekly testing only if they are unvaccinated. Even student council. Per Title IX, this is discrimination as it restricts equitable and equal access to athletic programs and clubs. I know we like to pay attention to what other school districts are doing, specifically what the large school districts are doing. I won't bore you with the details of Arizona and Utah, but of the 10 largest school districts, only one other district is actually testing asymptomatic staff and students. Why? One, in all fairness, I will wager that New York City will be joining us late September. But why aren't they testing?
All right. Her point is we're spending $43.7 million on coronavirus tests, including testing people who, you do understand that is a lot of money. A lot of money. And that is what's driving this pandemic. If you took that $43.7 million and instead of paying for coronavirus tests, you gave every teacher at CCSD a $3,000 a year raise, which would cost exactly that amount, we would have better teachers, we would have more teachers, and we would have less crowded classrooms. But yet we gotta send our money to the oligarchy. We gotta pay our dues. That's how the money goes around in a circle and it misses the children. Let's go to Emily Palmer, 3450. Don't forget to text your comments to 702-501-5304. We're going to Emily Palmer at 3450. Play tape.
You should probably know that by now. Is this what we are putting in our high schools now? This? Correct? Correct? It is.
Please address the board.
Is this fear?
We
Are
cannot
you teaching
see
our
that.
children fear?
We
Yes
cannot
or
see
no?
that.
It's my minute. Are you teaching fear? Yes, you are. It is inappropriate, and I won't take it anymore. Enough is enough. So you know what? No, 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 and no. Thank you.
Thank
you,
you.
Ms. Palmer.
Thank you very much, Emily Palmer. That is the biggest ire I have right now with CCSD. I've been watching these signs. If you go on the CCSD Facebook page, you'll see I comment on every single one of them that they post. That is the absolute pinnacle of fear-mongering propaganda, and they're pushing it on our students. They want to put those up in the school. They're test running it on Facebook to see what kind of a response they get, which is why I treat it like a job, that I have to constantly tell them that this is fear-mongering BS. How dare they put those signs up in our schools? Thank you, Emily. Very, very good. This is Tanya Jackson at 3920. Play tape.
Oh. I want to speak on your agenda item, anti-racism. Why is anti-racism even on your agenda and in the classroom? You and your incompetent teachers are trained Marxists, teaching skin color-based hatred and political propaganda instead of real subjects.
French, please turn off the mic. Ms. Jackson, we are on the action items. There will be a time that you can speak. You can speak on the anti-racism.
I don't think they liked what she had to say. Clearly, this woman is an immigrant, but, I guess not the right kind of immigrant. And when you hear somebody with an Eastern European accent, just like if you knew somebody was from Cuba or China, you know that they understand socialism and communism firsthand, and they are scared. I was saying Eastern European there. Juggalo patriot. Let's go. Oh, here's a good one. And I reached out to Lorena Cardenas. If anybody knows Lorena Cardenas, I know I'm only 2 degrees away from her. I looked her up. I'm not her friend on Facebook, but I did notice that, we probably have like 50 mutual friends. If any of you know Lorena, if you could throw her a text, I'd like her to call in because she shows up again later in the show, and I'd like to find out she didn't have a microphone when she was screaming, and I want to hear what she had to say from her own mouth. So if anybody knows Lorena Cardenas, it's 702-501-5304. Tell her to text us her name, and we'll be calling her back in her next appearance at the CCSD board meeting. But for now, Lorena Cardenas, 4207. Play tape.
Now, in America, we believe in equality, which by definition means that each individual is given the same resources or opportunities, whereas equity, which this school board has decided to spend $56 million of our dollars to train our teachers on, is the belief that each person has different circumstances and that we don't all start from the same place. What's that special circumstance that makes it difficult for people to reach the same thing as others? Apparently it's skin color. In other words, it's the bigotry of low expectations, as I read online. In other words, they think minorities need an extra hand because we're stupid. If that's not racist, I don't know what is. It is ironic that this district has chosen the term anti-racism since attempting to judge us all by skin color.
Thank you, Ms. Cardenas. Next speaker.
Thank you, Ms. Cardenas. And you do know that they could say their name right? Like they're going to yell at Tucker Carlson for naming Kamala, whatever. But then, when they don't like what they say, they call it Cardenas. Our name is Cardenas. But meanwhile, when you say Morales Garcia, you say it correctly because she's a friend of yours on the school board. But when it's Lorena Cardenas, you're not going to say it proper? I don't know about that. But thank you very much, Lorena. It's true. Anytime you start trying to give a person of color a handicap or a crutch, that is the bigotry of low expectations. We want equality of opportunity. The harder you work, the better you'll be. That's equality. This is not, we can't have equitable outcome without the bigotry of low self-expectations and without bringing everybody down together. All right, let's go. I think you guys are going to like this. This is Sharon Abila at 4320. Play tape.
Including my grandchildren. For equity, they have a right. They have lost their voice. You have silenced them with these masks, which are abuse, a form of abuse. You are...
Ms. Abila, you're signed up for 302, which is out-of-district consultant, Project HEAL, professional learning. And you are signed up for 303, consultant, cultural competency, professional learning. So
they all fall under that.
I must redirect you to stick to those topics. If you would wish to speak on these, you can speak on 801. If you want to speak on a different topic other than what you signed up for. Your choice.
What was it again?
It is 301, 302, out-of-district consultant, Project HEAL, professional learning, and 303.
Okay, professional learning. Let's talk about professional learning.
Go right ahead.
You guys are not professionally teaching our children.
I'm sorry.
You need to get back to the basics.
303, out-of-district consultant, cultural competency. Would you like to speak on that?
Cultural competency.
Yes.
You guys are incompetent. I'm sorry, but I mean that with all due respect. You're hurting our children. You're causing them mental abuse, suicide. Then they're running away from home, being trafficked, which is a bigger issue than the ones that you're talking.
You are not speaking on what you signed up for. Thank you, ma'am.
She didn't like her answers. Sharon Abila, that was improv. That was just off the cuff. That was hilarious. You're my favorite speaker of the night. Nice job. All right, now I'm going to share this with you because it's really important. All right, this is Marie Nices. All right, she's the president of the CCEA, the Clark County Educational Association. She is the president of the Teachers Union. So she's supposed to be singularly in charge of looking out for teachers' best interest. Now you noticed earlier, Ms. Abila mentioned that they spent $57 million or $53 million on training teachers in equity. We also spent $44 million on testing asymptomatic teachers on with coronavirus. That's a total of $100 million. Again, that could be a $7,000 a year raise for every single teacher at CCSD. That would result in more and better quality teachers for our children. Why do we have so much money to just give to the oligarchy, but we can't pay our teachers? And why is the union's singular purpose not getting teachers $60,000 a year? But anyway, here's Marie Nices. Let's hear what the CCEA, what their singular interest is.
For the record, my name is Marie Nices. I am the president of the Clark County Education Association. I am honored to represent educators on the Superintendent's External Anti-Racism, Equity, and Inclusion Task Force Committee. I hope CCSD understands the urgency of creating a policy that isn't strictly words on paper, but has accountability and isn't created just to appease the community. Developing and implementing a thoughtful and comprehensive policy is crucial. The policy must address the school environment, incident reporting, and diversified staffing to be fair and equitable. The committee will need real-time data to make the necessary changes. We need to be clear on our objectives. We need to be transparent. We need to be direct. Racism is real, just like the global pandemic. While I am honored to be part of the committee, I hope everyone's voices will be heard and respected. I also want to stress the importance of getting the policy done and implemented. I say that because I do not want to be part of a committee if it turns out to be as unorganized and chaotic as the rollout of this school year. I look forward to continuing to work with the committee to advance a fair and equitable policy for students and staff alike. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
All right, she's supposed to be battling for teachers, which there's nothing wrong with that. Of course, public sector unions, that's not really a good thing to have a union fighting against taxpayers. But the good thing about the teachers union is they're not fighting for more money for the teachers, which is the singular thing they should be fighting for. She's fighting for a reporting system so students have more equitable outcomes. Now, that might be a noble thing and all, but that's not in your lane. Your job is to represent teachers. Her singular comment should have been what I just said. If we have $100 million for equity training and coronavirus asymptomatic testing, why can't we just give our teachers $7,000 a year more and get more teachers and better teachers? That's not her concern, though. All right. Now, let's find out what, some of the, we want to be fair and balanced. We need to hear what the other side is saying about, like, say, CCSD police. This is Sheila Conroe, 10148. Close? All right, play tape.
Okay, gotcha. Let me see here. Okay, so Jamie Tyczynski, for the record, I want to talk about item 5.01 and then
I'm sorry, we
responsive teaching put there together. So
this is Jamie Tyczynski again.
Pretty much what Ms. Comroe said. We don't talk to each other beforehand, but I think we come in with almost the same comments and concerns. I'd like to show you this. So this is posted from an organization called My Child's Advocate, and it's children in a concentration camp saying they were victims of critical race theory. And I spoke last meeting about how heinous that was and how disgusting that was to compare something like the Holocaust to asking people to wear a mask. The Holocaust was a genocide. It is not a meme to support your ignorance and bigotry. And this anti-racism committee is because, I'm not lying, her name is right on it right here. She can own it or not.
Security, please remove the people who are shouting out. We are not going to have that tonight. If you shout out again, you are going to be removed.
Nope.
Please go ahead.
AB 371 is the law, whether people like it or not. You're mandated to create an anti-racism policy that needs to be inclusive. I do not find that committee to be inclusive when you put people like Deborah Earle on it from Power to Parents, which is a noted hate group. They showed up at the gender diversity meetings and called trans kids mentally ill. They're not ill. Trans kids deserve every right and respect as anyone else. And when you put someone on that committee who actively promotes hate, that's not anti-racism. That's not, and I don't know if this was operational or how this was decided, but you've got some good people on that committee, and you've got some absolute garbage on that committee.
Thank you, Ms.
And there you go. That's the tactics. Number one, they get 6, 7, 8-year-old children to compare masks, to compare conservatives to Nazis. But then when the conservatives point out the fact that in the 1930s in Germany, it started out with, Jews couldn't, use bathrooms, or Jews couldn't go into particular stores, or Jews had to go to the back of the bus. Whatever the case may be, it evolved to special identification and then Star of David. And the next thing you know, neighbors are turning in neighbors to go into train cars. And maybe they didn't even realize that they were sending them into train cars to go to their death, but they did. And it was an evolution. And as people warn about this vax, anti-vax, got the vax, didn't get the vax, natural immunity, doesn't care about COVID, as they continue to separate us, it's very similar to the way they separated Jews from not even Christians, because Nazis, they were more worshiping the state. And then she goes to the other part of the playbook. Power to parent. I reached out and briefly spoke with Charlie Nicole and Erin Phillips. They're busy with their families. God bless them. But they will be joining us on the Johnny Brew Show. They've had a lot of interest on coming on. And the Johnny Brew Show is supporters of Power to Parent. But now they're saying that Power to Parent are racists because they're not progressive, crazy liberals, fighting for infanticide or whatever. If you don't align yourself directly with the Democrat Party, you're a racist. And now Power to Parent has fallen under that umbrella. And again, Charlie Nicole, Erin Phillips, I'm sure a lot of you guys watching know who that is. I don't really think they're white supremacists. All right. This young lady wearing her beautiful NFL San Francisco 49er number 7 jersey, her name is Christine Clark. Let's hear what she has to say.
And participate. As members of societal institutions, we all learn racism, including in schools, especially through the school curriculum and from our teachers, no matter how well-meaning we as teachers are. That is, we all learn to think and act in racist ways. However, racism impacts us differently, differentially, and disproportionately based on who we are. With this in mind, for the anti-racism policy to work to protect students who are being subjected to racial violence in their classrooms and schools, it must start and end with the critical race conscious understanding that black girls are the most likely to be negatively impacted by racial violence, and white girls like me are the least likely to be. It is not possible to develop an anti-racism policy while also catering to individuals and groups who advocate white supremacist ideology, who are opposed to anti-racism efforts. Let me be clear. To oppose anti-racism is to support racism. It does not mean to remain neutral. Let me say it again. Let me be clear. To oppose anti-racism is to support racism. It does not mean to remain neutral.
All right, and there's part 3 of the playbook. All right, we name it Black Lives Matter. So if you're opposed to that communist political organization, you're against Black lives. They call it anti-racism. So if you're against anti-racism, you must be for racism. They play these words, it's semantics, and they are good at it. And conservatives are bad at it. All right, I also wanted to say, somebody said something, Linda Reed. Linda Reed, you're going to realize as I break down why these people shouldn't be fighting as much as they are, because they don't understand that we are on the same team. Many times, whether you're talking about foreign policy or you're talking about, abortion or you're talking about socialism, we are no longer two parties with the same end goal, just different ways of getting there. But with this anti-racism policy, I do believe we do have the same, most of us have the same end goal, different ways of getting there. Like this woman saying, anti-racism is the way to go, and explaining to children that, people of color need help so we need to give them an unfair advantage to get a more equitable outcome. That is the bigotry of low self-expectations. Anything that is perversely racist, whether it's against black people or against white people or against Asian people or Hispanic people, it's wrong. But I do believe the majority of the left and the majority of the right want our children to go to school and learn in a safe environment. That is our mutual goal. So I just wanted to tell you, Linda, thank you. I do want to present both sides of the argument, and I'm telling you, even the people we may not agree with on other issues, I do believe on this particular issue, not including the Kaepernick wearing anti-racist, you're a racist person, but in general, all of us. I'll tell you right now, I know all of the conservatives, if they ever heard somebody calling a young black girl, 11, 12, 13, middle school aged black girl, a racial epithet, any conservative or progressive should be appalled and demand that the offending child, learns to be kinder to their fellow classmate. All right. I'm sorry, I could keep going. Let's go. This is Linda Cavazos at 1446.
People in the audience. The people in the audience, security, can you please, I would like to have some security at the end of some of these rows, please, so that you can see the people a little bit more clearly who are calling out. And if they do call out, I want them removed. They are disrupting the meeting by yelling out, and they are obstructing the voices of the people. So I would like the security to please be at the ends of the rows here so that we can see.
You notice she points to the conservative side 5 times and the progressive side once.
After Sylvina, we are going to go to the in-person. So I hear most of the noise coming from this side of the room. I'm sorry, but that's from the dais. That is where we are hearing it. So I would like security to please be cognizant of who is yelling out. We have been more than open and more than generous on this. You are being extremely rude and disruptive to the people who are trying to talk.
All right, Linda Cavazos is very partisan in her reprimands. Because both sides, and you'll see, I'll let you see for yourself. This is Gene Collins at 1:18:20. This is going to be Gene Collins coming up at 1:18:20. And guys, again, give us a text, 702-501-5304, if you'd like your opinion shared here on the Johnny Brew Show. And if you'd like to call in, just text your name to 702-501-5304. And I'll call you back when we talk about the topic you'd like to discuss. 702-501-5304. Play tape. Gene
Thank
Collins,
you,
the
Madam
best
Chairman,
speaker of the night.
and those of you who are here. My name is Gene Collins. I'm a former state assemblyman. I'm a former president of the NAACP. I'm a former president of Reverend Al Sharpton's National Action Network. I own a business, but I came today to talk about, we had a march at the superintendent's office because the superintendent refused to listen to the stakeholders of the historical Black West Side community. And guess what I found? We should be ashamed of ourselves. At one time, Clark County ranked number 10 in the nation in education, and here we are fighting over who is black and who is white, while our children are not being educated. We should be ashamed of ourselves for allowing ourselves to fall victim to the foolishness when the education and the livelihood of our students is at stake. We can do better. We are better than this. We are better than this. We should not be down here talking about a white and a black issue. As all people, I know I had to go to court in order to get into the operators engineers. I had to go to court to become an electrician. I know very well how difficult it is, but yet and still I'm not down here talking about this. I'm down here trying to save the welfare of my community and my children. That's why I'm here.
Guys, MVP of the night. Tell me what you think of Gene Collins. 702, text us, 702-501-5304. Gene Collins. He didn't need special accommodations to get to where he got to. He worked his tail off. And when there was systematic racism in his way, which was a thing here in the United States, when Gene Collins was a young man, he went to court and he fought. And because of people like Gene Collins, we have put this crap behind us. Again, if somebody's being racist, if other students are being racist, and you want to address that with an anti-racism policy, or you want to address it with an anti-bullying policy, I am all for it. There is no room for racism. And we need to teach our children better. But these board meetings and these issues that we're constantly talking about is perpetuating the racism. Like Mr. Gene Collins just said, we're here wasting our breath on this crap. We need to educate our children to be ladies and gentlemen. Not just as far as racism is concerned, to have good content of character and to be academically capable, to speak good English, to be able to do math, and to be ladies and gentlemen, which covers everything. Bullying, racism, sexism, transgenderism, homophobia, Muslim phobia, Islamophobia, all the phobias and isms. It's all covered under being a gentleman and a lady. Thank you, Gene Collins. Thank you for saying what, unfortunately, I can't even say. You are the shining example. You work hard in this country, you get to where you want to go. All right, this is Diana Batista. 121-26. Play tape.
To school on time. We're power to parent board members in which have direct connections to the Proud Boys and their organization representative who just yesterday retweeted an article with exact quotes. The biggest problem that black people have is the percentage of blacks, 75% of them, that are raised without fathers. Another quote, our educators and media misled people by claiming subjects such as social justice, systemic racism, equity, diversity, and inclusion being introduced in K-12 schools are not critical race theory. I would take these things into consideration and reassess if the appropriate people appointed are a positive representation of CCSD.
All right, here we go again. Power to parent with direct ties to the Proud Boys, white supremacists, and they're racists because they're not a progressive educational think tank. That's the only reason. That's number one. Number two, I saw advertisements for groups like Black Lives Matter to start attending these meetings to fight off the grassroots conservatives. Why are the progressives and the Democrats allowed to call on help from Black Lives Matter and Antifa, but if anybody happens to be in the same room as somebody who might know somebody who's in the Proud Boys, that's no good? I mean, I'm sorry, but the Las Vegas Proud Boys have got, as far as I know, 0 accusations of predatory violence, where Antifa and Black Lives Matter do. But meanwhile, Black Lives Matter and Antifa are commonplace in our accepted societal discussion, and Proud Boys are now the newest KKK when they aren't anything like the KKK. And why And she says the proof that power to parent is racist is the fact that somebody affiliated with power to parent explained that one of the biggest problems in the black community is children, 75% of children growing up without a father. That sounds like a concrete problem to which we could try to find a solution. Like when you blame it on systemic racism, that's like this fantasy thing. Like, everybody in the government who is part of the system is screaming systematic racism in order to continue to be a part of the system. But they're the people who are in the system that are supposedly systemically racist. Again, they like the circular logic to which we can never find a solution. But somebody says that maybe we need to address fatherlessness in the home, which is a problem. That's racist? Or somebody pointing out the fact that systemic racism or systemic justice or systemic equality, anytime you put a word, an adjective before the word justice, it ceases to be justice. Lady Liberty is blindfolded and she's holding the scales of justice. It doesn't matter if you're Jeffrey Epstein or if you're the poor little kid. It doesn't matter who you are, how much money you have, what color you are, what religion you are. Because justice is blind. And they weigh the facts on the scales of justice with a sword to deliver justice. As soon as you start calling it racial justice, societal justice, any kind of justice, it ceases to be justice. Justice can only stand alone as a word, blindfolded, weighing the facts. All right? You can't have racial justice. Sorry, I'll keep going. This is 12525, Dr. Tanya Walls.
This is for girls of color, and I stand in solidarity with No Racism in Schools to get the anti-racism policy written, implemented, enforced, and monitored. I'm going to take a little bit different approach. This week from CCSD schools, 90-pound black girl slammed to the ground by school police at Desert Pines High School. Black girl handcuffed, slammed to the ground, and ticketed at a different high school. Students pepper sprayed at Green Valley High School by school police. Shadow Ridge High School today, black girl beat up by white boy for daring to speak up for herself when confronted with racial violence and being taunted and terrorized by symbols representing Nazism and white supremacy ideology. What did the police do? Targeted the girl. We are constantly told that school police are there to make our schools safe, and yet all of these incidents demonstrate that our schools are not safe for black girls. And so when we write the anti-racism policy, I hope we are not just focused on individual racist acts by students, and that we are also looking at systemic racism engaged by police, engaged by teachers, engaged by policies that target our children. Write the policy.
All right. So this is the problem with the other side. She doesn't want it to be concentrated on individual acts of racism. That's the only thing we have in America. We are individuals. If one person is a horrible person or a racist or a bully, we need to address it, make an example of them, and kick them out of the school. But you can't do that because you have restorative justice, where every single kid remains in a school no matter what. No matter how much of a distraction they are, no matter how much hurt and trouble they cause, we can't get rid of them. And she wants it to concentrate more on systemic racism. But we still don't have, since 1965, the Civil Rights Act, systematic racism has been outlawed. All right? Cops, for the most part. Now listen, if a cop is doing something that's wrong, they need to be held accountable. And they need to have a higher bar than a normal civilian because they represent the public sphere. They are the cops. We put our trust in them, their decision making. So if you actually have evidence of racist behavior, we need to address it. But again, that needs to be on an individual level. There are no systemic policies that encourage racism. Quite to the contrary, actually. But they continue to want us to chase ghosts. And if you have the platform of identifying individual acts that need attention, you're part of the problem. That baffles me. This is Casey Banner, 12930. Play tape.
And I'm going to say this very quickly, that educators are teaching hate in the schools and division. I'm here to say I'm teaching state standard SS 9 through 12, WH.23, dominant cultures and minority groups, race and ethnicity, and the oppression thereof. Thank you for your time.
Okay. All right. So, the beginning of the clip, this gentleman says, we have teachers teaching hate and division. Then he goes on to say he's teaching certain standards about race and all these things about divisiveness. Like that in that 20-second clip, the hypocrisy is blatantly obvious. He's the one, and I'm sorry, I keep going to say she. I don't know if I got the pronouns correct, but the name was Casey, I believe. I'm sorry. But my point is, he says teachers are teaching hate and divisiveness, and then goes on to list the standards of which he is entitled to teach hate and divisiveness. This is Tiffany Stapleton, 13840. Play tape.
You're my hero. You're my hero. You said exactly what needs to be said. And maybe he has some credibility saying it, okay? Equity is not equality. It is instead the soft bigotry of low expectations. Dr. Jara seems to pride himself on lowering the standards, lowering the bar for all the kids in this county. How does that help any of these kids? And especially when it comes to anti-racism. You're not helping anybody by doing something like that. You're making our kids stupid. And for the young lady, I gotta say, the lady who said, or the young girl who said that they were throwing up Nazi signs.
Miss Stapleton? Miss Stapleton?
Zip it.
Miss Stapleton, you are to address the board. Security, please turn off the mic. Please cut the mic. Please cut the mic. You are out of order. You are not supposed to be addressing the audience. You are supposed to be addressing the board. And there are no personal attacks allowed against the superintendent or the board. I'm sorry. Next speaker would be Joseph McNally. Here you go. Joseph McNally and then Yared and Retta. Please remove yourself from the podium. Please, audience, we do not want to have to clear the room. Do not engage. She is being removed from the podium. Mr. Is it McNally? I'm sorry if I got that incorrect. And then Yared Retta.
There you go. Well, Tiffany Stapleton, if you're watching, 702-501-5304. Text me the name Tiffany Stapleton. I'll call you back. And since they turned off your mic, you're welcome to speak. And people, Anybody is welcome to speak. You don't have to agree. I'd prefer hearing from people that I disagree with. Anybody who wants to share your opinion, you could text it. Anybody who wants to call in and speak with us, 702-501-5304. Just text us your name and we'll call back and put you live on the air. All right, so this is Yared Retta at 142.45. Play tape.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, my name is Yared Retta for the record. I grew up in this county. I'm a former CSN student government leader. I'm currently in CSN, and I've been I fell victim to recidivism a lot, right? So I grew up in here, and so in prison, we're conformed into strategic racism to where they sell you up differently, right, to your own race. Now I'm gonna get into my point, right, with the anti-racism. So we need to address the school pipeline, and from what I'm hearing from our children, that the CCSD police is there to be able to keep that pipeline going. And so with that being said, we need to implement anti-racism period, because also with a few people on this aisle, and I stand with the masks and things like that, that right there is taken away from the whole experience of middle school, high school. Put your mindset back to when y'all was in school. You can't even see the simplicity of the little girl you might want to flirt with and have her be your girlfriend. You can't even see the smile, things like that. That's dehumanizing. That's also dehumanizing the children. Hold on though, because I'm glad I got a clapping from over here and applause. But at the same time, we got to also address racism as well too, because we want our children to be the best version of ourselves, and that goes on both sides of the aisle as well, whether it be African American or whether it be Caucasian. We all need to be able to address this and come together as one, because all together we're Nevada. We're all Nevada, different shades of Nevada, so we need to be able to move forward in this so everybody can feel comfortable enough and not feel like they're always being attacked for racism or being attacked for racism in both sides of the field. So all I say is, man, it's about the children. So as long as we can be able to come together as one community, come on, man. We are in the bottom percentile of the education, and on top of that, we're the 5th largest school district. Come on, let's heal. Let's heal each other, because we can do this together. Because I stand against, I'm full-blooded Ethiopian, so there's stuff going on back there.
Thank you, Mr. Retta. Next speaker,
Mr. Retta. You know, I might not agree with you wholeheartedly that the CCSD police are encouraging the school to prison pipeline, but you seem like a nice, reasonable young man who can hold a conversation, and it appears that his singular focus is, as all of ours is, having children get a good education and be safe. And can we find some solutions for the perpetually misbehaving children? Instead of getting them into the school to prison pipeline, can we find a solution? And can we get statistics, more than just racial statistics? Again, fatherless children, if they need a male role model, find a way to get them the help that they need. Instead of blaming the system, let's try to help these children before it's too late. And that was his singular point. And we are a nation, and we are in this together, and we need to begin to heal. And this divide continues to widen. Ever since 2014, the big lie, hands up, don't shoot. Ever since that big lie, things have been getting worse and worse and worse. Thank you, Yared. This is Dyer Lawrence at 150-150. Play tape.
3 have graduated, and I got 2 still in it. Here's one of them. I'm here for him, but also for all the other kids in the district. It's become clear that we're just not, we're on such different pages, and we just have totally different views of what's good for the kids. Now, I respect that you guys have different views, and hopefully those are views that you really hold and not paid for views, but I'll give you the benefit of the doubt, I guess. But we almost got to the point where we need almost two options for schools, not just everyone running a private school. Like you guys letting us have a patriotic version, a kind of traditional school where we focus on the fundamentals, reading, writing, arithmetic, science, math, English, and just pound those. We're not doing a good job of that. And then you can have a woke school with the teachers, they can have how to dye your hair purple class. They can have, a gender transition class. While we're pounding the fundamentals into our kids, you guys have the, hey, why, hold on. Whoa. Hey, can I get some time restored?
Please, Mr. Lawrence,
Can I get some time restored?
your time is still running, but can you please confine your comments to what the topic is at hand?
Well,
we're not here to hear derogatory, anti-racist comments.
Well,
we're talking on the policy. Thank you.
Hey, you took like 20 seconds. Can I get that back, please?
Nope, we had interruptions and...
Well, that's also part of it.
Keep on talking.
Whoa, you just took 20 seconds with an interruption. You didn't throw her out.
Keep on talking.
Well, that's part of it too. We need to teach our kids, with the old principle of Martin Luther King, where we're judging each other not by the color of our skin, but by the content of our character, and loving each other. You guys can have your school where you teach racial resentment and racial division and teach everyone to hate each other, and we'll have our school where we love each other, no matter what color you are. We just came from basketball practice. Me and him were the only white kids in the gym. Guess what? We got along fine. Everyone's cool. Just treat each other good like you're supposed to. It's not that hard. Get over it.
Bravo. Good for this guy. Now, you see that people are literally interrupting Mr. Dyer Lawrence while he's talking. No reprimands from Ms. Cavazos. But meanwhile, somebody claps on the right side of the room, and we got to stop everything, and we got to apologize to the speaker, and we need to set up security. And this guy's point is exactly right. If you watch the media, if you watch these school board meetings, you would think that black and white people are getting into fist fights at every street corner because there's so much racial division. This guy, Mr. Lawrence, is saying, him and his son, I'm a former basketball player. All right, I know basketball, while black people make up 13% of the country, I'd say basketball is at least 50% black, if not 70, 75, 80% black. I'm a former basketball player. I know that we are in a racist country. I know most black people could care less the color of my skin, and black people who know me just a little bit know I really don't care about the color of their skin. And basketball is the best example of that. And this guy shows up with his kid, and he's still in his goggles and his uniform, and he just got back from being in a gym full of 40, 50 black families, and there's no problem. We aren't a racist country. And he's saying, can we just start loving each other? Can we teach the kids to love each other? Because this is increasing the divide, as I continue to say over and over and over again. All right? Guys, I see all you guys watch, and I really appreciate it. Please, send me a text. Maybe my system is no good. My producer says my system sucks. It's all my fault. I'm wondering if I'm even giving out the right number. 702-501-5304. Text me what you're thinking. Or text me your name, and I'll put you live on the air. This is Justin Smith at 15700. Play tape.
Is it on?
Yes.
How's everybody doing
Yes,
today?
it is.
My name is Justin Smith, and I want to speak about an incident that happened when I was attending Durango High School. And I think Lola Brooks, you remember me, I actually attended Beacon High School, Beacon Academy in Nevada. And the shift happened because what happened at Durango High School was I was bullied. And it was in front of an administrator. So basically what happened was I was pushed, and the administrator was right there. There was a gash in my leg. It was all on documentation, and they deleted the video. I had never been in trouble. I was student of the month, student of the year, and at Beacon Academy in Nevada. And basically, I was given the maximum sentence. I was given 10 days of suspension, and it was at the end of the school year. I had an IEP, and I also had and I didn't get the protection that I needed, and there were so many incidents that were leading up to another incident that actually happened at Durango High School. For the record, and this is public information, but I was running track and my genitals were out in the yearbook and it was published, and I was bullied on that too. And I don't know if it's racism but the way the picture was structured, even in the yearbook, it was crazy. I mean, there was a white gentleman that was in front of me, and I'm running with him. I'm running behind him with my genitals out in the yearbook. So, and that's actually something that's ongoing even right now. So I just wanted to say that here, because I'm even, like, if I wasn't strong-minded, I wouldn't be here right now. I wouldn't. So I just want to say that, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. Now, number one, obviously, this is an anecdotal example. But this young man is coming on and sharing his story, and good for him. And if there was malfeasance or somebody thought it was funny to do that to him, there needs to be accountability. But in the beginning of his speech is the most important thing. I used to teach for CCSD, and I had a young girl who was in 8th grade, and she had gotten left back. And she decided she was going to do the right thing. And she was trying really hard to do the right thing. And, no, she wasn't left back. Another girl was left back, actually twice. I think the girl was about to age out. I think once you turn 16, you're no longer allowed in middle school, no matter how many times you get left back. So what happened was this one girl had a problem with one of my students. The girl tried to jump this student of mine, and the girl literally ran away. As she was running away, trying to avoid getting into a fight because she didn't want to get in trouble, the other girl, who was 2 years older than her, grabbed her from behind and started beating the crap out of her. What happens? They both get suspended. In CCSD, if two people get into a fight, even if it's one person getting jumped and just crawling up into fetal position, they both get suspended, which is absolutely a ridiculous policy. I mean, kids who do not want to be involved in a fight that are jumped should never be suspended. But that's going on at CCSD. And that should be addressed as well. The kid seemed like a real nice, good kid. And whether it was due to racism, bullying, or whatever the reason was, we need to address that. That is a systemic problem. That is a policy that is no good. Otherwise, if somebody's being racist, we need to investigate it individually and make an example of that person. That's the only answer. This is Jim Frazee. Now, he is also from the CCEA. He's the VP. Let's see if he does what I said the CCEA should be doing, and saying, let's take $100 million of this wasted money and give our teachers raises. Let's see if that's his position. Play tape.
Of CCEA. I'm speaking on 501 racial policy. I must tell you, I come here very sad today. I am sad that it's taken so long to even have a conversation about this, not to mention not have an action part. I don't understand why it's so controversial to say that we're going to treat students, teachers, and staff of color with dignity and respect. We know that this body, Superintendent Jarrett, can move rather quickly when he so chooses, like ramming a complete upgrade of the grading policy down our throats, but we have not even gotten students back for the first day. I ask you to move as quickly on this policy. I heard someone say, now is not the time to address this.
All right, so he didn't address what I think most teachers would like addressed. And then he talks about how this new grading policy was implemented too fast for the teachers to respond accordingly. And then in the next breath, he says, I hope we can push through this anti-racism policy just as fast. Why? This is the leader of the Educational Association. And he contradicts himself one statement to the next. It just doesn't make any sense. This is Jim Blocky, 20150. Play tape.
It's not that we have such a problem with this racist thing. It's who it's aimed at. That's what we have a problem with. He was talking about, being treated with respect. Well, it goes both ways. There is a racism problem. You will not get an argument from anybody up here that there is not a racism problem in this country, but it is an equal opportunity thing. There's racism on both sides. I can tell you, I'm a retired teacher. I taught for 22 years. At one point, because I was white, couldn't take my family out anywhere without being weaponized. Because I was in fear for my life, because there was people out there, kids, who had teardrops in their eyes, who were Hispanic, who were black, who were Asian, who threatened to kill me and my family because I was white. They think it's funny. This is exactly, they're the ones over here who are whining about the lack of teachers. Well, it's their disrespect toward Christian conservative teachers is why Christian conservative teachers quit. It's because of these hate-filled liberals. And by the way, Thomas Jefferson wrote legislation on 6 different occasions to abolish slavery, only to be defeated by liberals like this over here. And you as a teacher of history should have known that. Racism is out there and needs to be dealt with. If you're only going to deal with half of it, if you're only going to deal with me, that's not dealing with racism. That's saying, hey, we just want to move the racism from one side to the other. I noticed not one person, when the quote of Martin Luther King, not one of these people over here applauded. Because they don't want equality, they want special treatment.
Thank you, Mr.
There you go. That's Jim Blocky, former teacher. And, CCSD has lost, I personally know of, half a dozen teachers, good teachers that couldn't deal with the crap. Here's another one. I'm sure this guy would pick up a job teaching if he was called to action, but he can't work within this system. All right, so let's hear what some of our trustees had to say. This is Trustee Garcia Morales at 20710.
Thank you, Madam President. The ratified warrants as listed in the bills payable transmittal and board memorandum number 03-21-22 in the total amount of $128,476,476.73.
Thank you, Trustee Garcia Morales.
The only reason I wanted to play that is because she couldn't say the number. These 7 people on the board, these 7 women, are in charge of spending, it used to be $5.2 billion every year. Now with the federal influx of COVID funds, you're in excess of $6 billion per year. They are spending $6 billion with a B. $6 billion per year. And she can't even say a 9-digit number. She had a 9-digit number and she misspoke. I'm working with middle school kids, or really I'm working with elementary school kids, 3rd and 4th grade, how to say a 9-digit number. This woman is in charge of a budget with 11 digits, at least 10 digits. And she can't even say the number correctly. That's got to be an alarm bell. All right. I promised you Lorena Cardenas would be back. Again, if you guys, anybody watching knows Lorena Cardenas, I would like to hear from her because we're not going to get to hear from what she has to say. This is 20840. Play tape.
To join you in serving this community and obviously the students of Clark County School District. So I look forward to getting to work and taking care of business and bringing this community together. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Story. Trustees, do we have any comments or anybody that has anything to say? We welcome you. We welcome you, Mr. Story. Security. Security. We are moving on. While they are removing Ms. Cardenas, we are going to move on. This is not an action item. We are having a presentation by our staff here, and we are going to have the presentation on anti-racism policy development work. This is an update on the anti-racism policy development work. The contact person is Mike Barton, and this.
All right, I don't know what Lorraine is yelling about, and I don't necessarily condone speaking out of order, screaming from the back row at the board, but it sounds like she had something very passionate to say, and I'd like to know what she had to say. Juggalo Patriot, I think you were there. I don't know if you know what she was saying. I couldn't hear her. I listened to the tape a bunch of times. I don't know what she's saying. All right. Something 21125. There's a picture I wanted to comment on. Can we find that?
For the Superintendent's External Anti-Racism, Equity, and Inclusion Task Force Committee meetings and the timeline.
Oh yeah, I want to hear what he has to say and then pause on the picture.
Policy.
Not yet. There. All right. I want to show you. This is the first slide. This is the slide where they're going to talk about the Anti-Racism, Equity, and Inclusion Task Force composition. The first slide, the most important thing that we need to know about this commission is its racial makeup. This is the problem. They believe that this is the singular most important thing about the task force, is the racial composition of the task force. Don't you see how stupid this is? And if you're going to go concentrate on the racial composition of a anti-racist task force here in Clark County, number one, I don't care what race they are. I want a solution to the problem. But if you're going to do this, why isn't it at least 50% Hispanic? Does anybody not know that Clark County and Las Vegas is at least half Hispanic? So if you want to reflect the people and the color of our melting pot salad bowl, it should be 50% Hispanic. It looks like the majority of it is black. But black people don't make up the majority of the Clark County community. Hispanic people do. But we're also worried about the optics of what color people are. And it's not the conservatives. It's not that guy, I think it was Dyer Lawrence, who just came back from the basketball courts, where him and his white son felt totally inclusive in a gym that was predominantly black, and I'm sure there were plenty of Hispanics there too, because Las Vegas and Clark County is 50% Hispanic, at least. All right. And then if you want to just fast forward just a little, you could play the tape. There's going to be another
38 participants
thing
were
where we can see
identified
what they're going to
serve
be
on the
addressing.
Superintendent's External Anti-Racism, Equity, and Inclusion Task Force Committee. This graphic, this composition of the External Task Force Committee is illustrated on this graph. The superintendent's...
Hold on, it'll blow up a little bit more. If you wait a little bit, they'll get rid of him.
External Anti-Racism, Equity, and Inclusion Task Force Committee meetings are in the process of being scheduled. The purpose of the proposed topics.
There we go. All right. So this is what they're going to be doing in their first meeting. Do you realize how many dozens of people are getting involved? How many tens of thousands of dollars we're paying all these people to discuss these things? Not implement it yet, just to discuss it. Months and months of experts, all right? They're going to be doing objective development. So they're going to talk about what are they going to talk about. They're going to create norms from work with active engagement from stakeholders, community accountability, and critical race theory will not be included. First of all, Why are they talking about what will not be included? This is anti-racism policy. This isn't curriculum. So what does critical race theory have to do with anti-racist policy? Number one. Number two, we want to hear from the community. Okay, that's fine. Why don't we just have more community members on the task force instead of these bureaucrats that keep getting regurgitated for every task force? You talk about systemic problems. All right, then they want to project a plan. They want to have the scope of their task force, the deliverables, the owners, the timeline, and the next step. So that's more planning to do planning. They want to define the problem. I thought the problem was racism. And then they need to identify data sources that substantiate the problem. Read that. They need to identify data sources that substantiate the problem. How do you not already have data sources that substantiate the problem? If we don't have data sources that substantiate the problem, why are we writing policy for it? If this is a rampant problem, we should have data that expressly shows us what the problem is. If we don't have that already, that means we don't even know if we have a problem. That means we're looking for solutions to a problem we're not even certain exists. Then we're going to do policy review from other school districts, which isn't entirely good because Las Vegas is its own community. We don't have the same demographics or problems as Los Angeles or as Texas or as North Dakota or as Florida. Define the process and the timeline. So after we've projected a plan, then we're going to define the process. Develop a success criteria. How are we going to... So first we got to get data that substantiates the problem. Then we need to develop a success criteria, which again is addressing systemic racism, which you cannot put your finger on anyway. Again, it's the circular logic. And then the creation of subcommittees and assigning work. So then we need to create more committees. And then we need to assign those subcommittees more work. So we need to get another dozen people in all these other different committees. How much money and resources is being wasted talking about these problems? I got a simple solution. How about this? How about we bring back behavior school or the ability to expel students? That's number one. And that falls in the legislators' hands because this restorative justice baloney, which is just keeping problem children in the classroom with your children who are trying to learn, while they continue to disrupt class, disrupt school, whether it's with violence, drugs, cutting class, bad jokes, disrespecting the teacher, whatever the case may be, these students cannot be withdrawn from the class because of this legislation of restorative justice. Number two, we need a strike system. Now, if you want to have an anti-racism policy, you get a strike when you do something wrong, like punch another student in the face. If it was racially motivated, proven racially motivated, you get 2 strikes instead of 1. And then you decide, do we have a 3-strike system? Do we have a 5-strike system? And if you get enough strikes, you go to behavior school, or you get suspended, or you get expelled. And if you want to amplify the strikes because it's due to racism, or due to bullying, or due to insensitivity to a student who is not sure what gender they are, or gender fluid, and we're not being sensitive to that, whatever, you want to add a strike, the bottom line is, if you're an asshole and you do something that infringes on another student's right to learn in a safe environment, you get a strike. Racially motivated, you get 2 strikes. 5 strikes, you're suspended for a week. 10 strikes, you go to behavior school. 15 strikes, you're kicked out of the district. You have to keep it simple, which I'm going to address in just 1 second. All right? Now, we have one conservative board member. Her name is Katie Williams. Let's hope that she brings the message of keeping it simple so that way teachers and administrators can implement these policies. Let's hope that she makes sure that this is universal, that if you are racist against somebody because they're black or brown or white, that you fall under this anti-racism policy. Let's make sure, I'm hoping Katie Williams brings up the fact that we make sure that this is not punitive and not circular and not searching out systemic ghosts, but we do address individual acts of racism and take action to remove that student from the school, and that we make an example of them so other students know that this kind of behavior will not be tolerated. Play tape.
Williams was next.
Yes. Trustee Guzman actually took a comment of mine because I was actually not counting it from May, but I was counting it from February of this year because that's when it was first brought up, and I believe it was a work session that was brought up. And so I'm looking at 11 months compared to 18 months. So where I understand where people want to get it done, but like Dr. Barton, Dr. Scavella, and Mr. Moeller, like I want to get it done properly and accurately. So thank you for coming and getting this all for us, and it seems like a great task force. So my only question is, do you gentlemen believe that everyone you chose on that task force truly has the best interest of all of our students at heart? That's my only question. Right? So just your opinion. I'm just wanting your opinion. Do you believe that they are here for the development and the safety of our children? Because I believe they are. I've read through all these. I see the people that are there. So just my personal opinion, I believe they are. As long as you guys are happy with this task force, I implore you guys to continue to push forward with these people, and that's what I'm asking.
Dr. Barton?
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Jara, Trustee Williams, I think there's been thought around all of these individuals, and there definitely are some differing opinions. However, I do believe that everyone wants to see a policy be developed. That's my understanding. And so if there's any contrary opinion to that, that's expressed as the work continues, that will be a concern that we can address operationally.
Thank you, Dr. Martin. I agree with you 100%. So thank you so much for bringing this, and it's a great presentation. I look forward to seeing it next month as well.
Yes, Kevin Kuttner. That is absolutely a softball question. Katie Williams did not represent the conservatives in the room whatsoever. It sounds like she's just kissing butt and trying to be... I thought she ran on a platform of getting Jara out of his seat. Then I thought she ran on a platform of promoting conservatism. And now Katie Williams is saying how much she just loves everything that's going on, and she can't wait to see how good all these people do. That's not what I expected. When I was promoting and helping Katie Williams get voted in, this is not, I thought she was going to be a watchdog for conservatives, and she was going to do everything in her power to stop with this systematic racism, ghost chasing BS. But she's like Jara's lapdog now. And now I know. I had Danielle Ford on, and just so you guys know, I reached out to both Katie Williams and Danielle Ford, and Katie Williams did not respond back to me. Danielle Ford did. Danielle Ford is with her family today. God bless her, and she's looking forward to coming on the show again. But I know some of you guys don't like Danielle Ford. Again, this is her representing what she feels that her constituents have been asking. I'm sorry, you guys know that Danielle Ford and Katie Williams are my two favorite people on the board. I mean, really, the other five, they're just so far gone. But listen to Danielle Ford, and you tell me if you think that she has the constituents' desires or platitudes or opinions Does Danielle Ford represent the constituents better, or does Katie Williams? Play tape.
Students that go through CCSD. So thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Ford. Did you want to say something, Dr.
I do,
Jordan?
if I may, for Trustee Ford. Trustee Ford and members of the board, I know that this is a priority of the board, and as your superintendent, we will do what it needs to do, and if it can be fast-tracked, we can, and we will. Our children are depending on adults, as always. I know that the speaker, the comment on the grading, I want to also...
And I hope that we can stick to it. I guess I'm
Here we go.
kind of wondering now, what if we don't stick to it? Then what happens? So I guess that's a conversation with the board as far as accountability and whatnot, but I'm glad that there is something that we can watch and that we can hold people accountable for if that work and communication isn't done correctly. Just kind of want to put on the record that I think you guys have done phenomenal with planning it, with communicating it to the board, despite everything, despite my aggravations with how long it's taken. You have been very respectful and communicative to us. And then you guys know on briefings, a lot of times I say my opinion, and then sometimes I say my opinion and I'm like, just letting you know this is a strong opinion, and if I see this, I might say something on the record, just letting you know. So I think that this is one of those things that I just want to put on the record that I did say in a briefing that, and I am only one trustee, but I did say in a briefing that I didn't think there was any room for anybody on the task force that wasn't already pro creating an anti-racism policy, and that I would not be happy if anybody that had been publicly against it was chosen. So I'm just hoping that operationally, that if there's anybody who it seems like might be slowing down the work or causing issues, that it would be handled and that those people would be removed. I once, actually, a speaker earlier kind of took the words out of my mouth when talking about the new grading policy in relation to it, which seemed to be similar in a lot of ways, that it's a big policy, it affects all students. It was recently passed. There was a lot of parents opposing it, a lot of teachers opposing it, some controversy, there still is, but it was able to get implemented, created, approved, and implemented, and training on it really quickly. So I feel like we could do that with this policy if the desire was there. We have the tools. So I'm hoping that we will be able to emulate the speed of that policy and not previous policies that took 18 months. And I just wanted to kind of address, without going into too many details, just some of the comments that I heard tonight. I feel like everybody's really saying the same thing still. And it's just that we don't always understand someone else's perspective, and we all are products of our environment and our childhood, and you don't know what you know until you know better, and when you know better, you do better. But it really isn't a white or black or brown issue. It's a racism issue, it's a prejudice issue, a hate issue, and I just wanted to get confirmation that that this applies to all races, and if there was a student who was being targeted and harassed for their skin color and that skin color was white, it would protect them too. Is that correct? Yeah, I see you guys nodding, so let me make sure it's in the record, yes. So I think that that's important for parents because racism, by definition, is systemic. It's the ism in it, but prejudice and hate are definitely in existence as well, and there is definitely prejudice against white kids, and often kids get targeted and called terrible things, and I think that this policy should keep that into consideration. I also wanted to speak to something that a lot of the students are talking about and something that a lot of our public commenters mentioned tonight, and that's the police in schools. I think this is something that the board should discuss separately at some point. I will possibly request that later on. But I feel like we can be against racism and pro the police at the same time. And we can think about things in a way that
maybe things might be different if there weren't less police at schools, but there were more other adults that can help kids in the way that they need to at the time when incidents are occurring. So there was something I heard a couple years ago and it stuck with me, and it was a recent graduate female, a black female from her school, and she had said that if she could change one thing, it would be that there were more people on campus that could help her get into college than could arrest her. And so I think that that's something that we should think about. It doesn't mean remove people that are there to protect us, but also consider how we can support those that are there to protect and serve us. And those are just some of my comments. I feel like everybody is saying the same thing, and I'm really excited to see this work progress and to make a real difference for these students and the next generation of students that go.
All right. Now listen, I agree with half of what she said and disagree with half, right? Like she was talking about if somebody's not an active anti-racist, we need to get them off that thing. I disagree because then you're not having everybody's opinion in there. But she's the one, not Katie Williams. She's the one who made sure that if a white kid gets racial shade thrown at him, that he will have the same protection as the black kid. Thank you, Danielle Ford. Danielle Ford is the one who pointed out that you could be against racism and pro-police. Katie Williams is the one who should be sticking up for the police because that's a conservative value. But we got Danielle Ford ensuring that the police are to be our friend, that we need the police, especially the CCSD police when they're having these big fights and everything else. We can be pro-police. Danielle Ford is the one who said that. All right, and then she goes on to some other stuff that I don't agree with. But my only point is, I believe Danielle Ford. I don't agree with her, but I believe her. She is not bought, she's not paid for. She is doing the work and she's doing the best job that she knows how. And I got respect for her. I know some of you guys don't like her, but I hope some of you could at least respect the fact that she doesn't sound like she's bought and paid for. And your hero, what was supposed to be my hero, Katie Williams, was not the first to defend the police. She was not the first to make sure that this is going to apply to all children, not just black children. She's the one who is... Anyway, there's more. If we go up to 243.00, Katie Williams does say something else. Maybe she's going to address keeping it simple. Maybe she's going to address the ghost of systemic racism and address individual actions. Let's see what Katie Williams has to say. Play tape.
Put on the record. So we have 2 CCSD police officers on this task force, which I love, right? Because if I'm not mistaken, Dr. Barton, our CCSD police, who are a fine group of individuals, of men and women that are there to protect our children, they actually went through crisis intervention training first, did they not?
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Jarrah, Trustee Williams, they've been through multiple trainings. So
Right.
whether it's a crisis response training, they've been through Trauma 101 training. I know that Chief Black Eye could correct anything I'm misstating, but I know they've been through multiple trainings, even inclusive of restorative practice.
Right, I think I'm pretty sure when I got sworn in as a ward, they sent me through like this kind of, I want to say it was a display of what they did, and they go through it annually, I believe, and then all new hires are also required to go through this crisis intervention training. Am I correct in thinking that?
I think you are, Trustee.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Barton.
Part of, if I just
Go
may
ahead,
jump
Dr.
in,
Jones,
because
sir.
part of the September conversation, and Dr. Barton does a great job in understanding all the training.
All right, so Katie Williams was simply finding out about the crisis response training that all teachers go through, that all cops go through, and now, it wasn't what I was hoping for. Let's go to 245.05, and not your favorite, but becoming now I think she's taken the top spot away from Danielle Ford. away from Katie Williams, my new favorite trustee, Danielle Ford, continues at 2:45:05. Play tape.
Some suggested possible action steps that I kind of put together based on the community comments and questions that showed up on Saturday, and specifically about the bill and how it would apply to anti-racism policy, and Assemblywoman Brittany Miller's responses to that. So this is just for you guys to have and kind of put on the record. Some ideas to look into to make sure that we are following everything is going to be, we should be sending an email to every single educator informing them that it's now a state law, explaining what the law is, and that it is mandatory to tell somebody and report every instance of racism. That could be done quickly. We should go through and red pen the anti-bullying policy to include anti-racism in it. You already covered this, but it was holding district leaders accountable for releasing data. Also a system to investigate situations by the school police that isn't overseen by the school police. I also want to request that we can have a presentation on AB 371 soon, and that she be, Assemblywoman Brittany Miller, possibly be invited to the first meeting. Okay, and so that, you know, right out of the gates, we are on track to not violating any laws and making sure that it's all kosher from there. So another one is to look into the campus security monitors. We know that our school police do go through training, but what kind of training do they go through, and who do they report to? We need to have a place to allow for specific reporting and tracking in Infinite Campus, and for parents to be able to report through Infinite Campus, and look into adding restorative justice and anti-racism into the discipline policy. So those are the suggestions that I've kind of put together. Again, this is not from my head, this is based on what the community said and what Assemblywoman Brittany Miller responded to them with.
All right. Again, you may or may not agree with everything Danielle Ford believes, but she just listed 8 concrete, actionable things that she wants to see addressed. She's the only one that is bringing up lists of ways to do this. What can we implement right away by putting something in Infinite Campus that all teachers have access to, right? By making sure that we're following the letter of the law, because they're implementing a law passed by legislature. She wants to bring in the person who wrote the law to contribute to this policy to make sure they're falling within the law. Again, you might not agree with her, but she's at least taking actionable steps to accomplish something. And she's the only one. All right, let's get to know some of our other trustees, all right? I watched them all. I wanted to include other trustees, but really everything most of these people say is just fluff. It's just regurgitating talking points, and they really have nothing concrete to say. But here's Trustee Garcia Morales at 2:47:55.
And in this work that we're conducting, I want to confirm that there is nothing related to critical race theory in this presentation. All of the work that we're doing here is specific to equity, anti-racism, and ensuring that our students have the tools that they need to be successful, and our educators have the tools that they need to be successful. I want to make sure that that this policy has nothing to do with critical race theory.
Madam President, if I may.
Go ahead.
Trustee Garcia Morales, I've said it from day one, but I appreciate you bringing that up because it just reminds me of my conversation with Dr. Marks yesterday from Morehouse College, a professor of many years. And as he was telling me a story, because as we were talking about the work that we're doing, and he said, I was with 50 attorneys in a law firm in Atlanta talking about, and the conversation came up about critical race theory. So he asked the 50 attorneys and says, how many of you learned critical race theory in law school, in your grad school? And 3 of them raised their hand. And he said, well, they're thinking that in K-12 we're teaching that to 3rd graders. I say that because that is not what we are teaching in K-12 education. We are teaching the standards that are approved by the Nevada State Board. So I apologize for the story, but I think it's just critical that, that's a higher ed.
All right? They keep saying this has nothing to do with critical race theory. Because we're not talking about curriculum. We're talking about anti-racist policy, which has nothing to do with critical race theory or anti-racist curriculum. That's number one. Number two, conservatives are not worried that students in elementary school are being taught the ins and outs of critical race theory, which is like a graduate course in baloney. But the tenets of critical race theory is that all white people are inherently racist. And we're worried about that facet of critical race theory being implemented into the anti-racist curriculum. So they're playing word games with us. Anti-racist policy has nothing to do with CRT. Yet they continuously bring it up because it's a false flag used to say, oh, we're appeasing conservatives, you should be happy. But meanwhile, it's like saying that we're, talking about cafeteria policy and saying that there won't be a dress code during gym class. What does that have to do with cafeteria policy? Nothing. But yet we're spending time on it trying to distract us. But that sums up the anti-racist policy of the thing. We also talked a little bit about substitutes, because not only do we not have enough teachers, like close to enough teachers, and the next board meetings will start addressing mandated vaccine for employees as if we need to get rid of more employees, which obviously we're going to lose a ton of employees, especially teachers, if we mandate that they get vaccinated. But we also don't have any substitutes. And you know why we don't have any substitutes? Because we don't pay them any money at all. I think you get like $100 for the day to be a substitute. That's why you have no substitutes. But here, if we go to 25100, this is Superintendent Jara addressing the no substitute situation.
Program that our chief of HR and our executive director of recruitment and development have been really looking at options as an opportunity. As you know, our concern with our substitutes has come forward since I've been here, and I know that last year, in the last budget year, the board authorized a salary increase for the substitutes in the first time in over 15 years. But Nadine and her team Ms. Jones and her team have been hard at work in trying to find other solutions. So they've done a great job in bringing forward a presentation. As you said, no action. And I just want to make sure that we're on the record. I know Ms. Jones asked me to remind the board, because this is not about outsourcing or ESCA losing jobs. This is just really around our substitute option.
All right. So first of all, you should notice that he has to apologize to the teachers union because it is about outsourcing. They're outsourcing their substitute process in order to try to reinvigorate the program. And he has to make sure that he apologizes and covers his butt with the teachers union. Why is the superintendent worried about offending the teachers union? That's not his lane, but that's because they're all tied in together. CCSD, the teachers unions, Vegas PBS, they act as if they're competing entities fighting for checks and balances, but they are one entity, and that's the biggest problem in CCSD. Now let's go to Trustee Guzman, who has to speak on this issue, and we can get to know her a little bit better. 30630, Trustee Guzman.
Hello, how are you? I have quite a few questions, and I appreciate this presentation, but I have some clarifying questions, and I know you've received them ahead of time, or I hope you have. because I really want to understand and do my fiduciary duty with oversight. So will the company be providing substitutes with the fingerprint clearance card, or will that be our cost?
I think maybe I'm unclear. I'm sorry, I should always be saying, Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Jara. All right,
I'm going way over time, and I promised my producer we'd keep this to 2 hours, but she continuously goes over whose liability is it going to be? Who's going to pay for fingerprinting? And all these questions are pretty good as far as, we need to know the technicalities, but it's always about liability and moolah. That's what their number one concern. They're not concerned with the qualifications of the substitutes. They're not concerned with how are we going to make this a streamless transition. They're not concerned with how are we going to have a teacher in every single class at every single school. All right. Let's go back. There's Danielle Ford, who's going to be addressing and asking her questions. Let's see if she continues to have concrete, implementable things that need to be addressed. 31055.
So one of the things I was mentioning on the briefing is that, one of the issues that I'm hearing from people is, especially now when we're begging for subs, that a lot of our, recently retired teachers or admin would like to become subs, and they're unable to get licensed. And I think your answer to me was that that's because of the waiting period here. And so if we were to do this and we were to, outsource it now to another company, they would technically be working for a different company. So.
All right, and again, I was going to play more of the clip, but we got to put a bow on this. She goes on and she's talking about the problems of getting subs in the classroom. There's a waiting period for your identification or background check. She's talking about the transition to ESS. And then she goes on to ask questions about what if the system fails? What are the fail-safes? What are we going to do? She's talking about concrete issues that may come up. But if we fast forward to 31500, I'll show you the real reason we can't get subs and how this new policy is not going to address it. Play tape.
So,
pay rates and sick time could be one.
Thank you. Okay, so pay rate, there will be no change in the pay rates. So they will receive the same pay rate that they currently have. So there will be no loss, no increase either. It will be the same pay rates that structure that we currently have in place. Substitute
No raise.
Teachers and support professionals do not currently earn any sick time, and that will be the same. That's not a benefit that they will have even with ESS's sick time.
Can I just interrupt you really quick? So if they're going to be going in at the rate that the board has, given them, what if we wanted to change that rate? Would we be able to?
Yes, we would be able to.
Okay.
Yes, we would.
Okay. And then the last question was how many subs have we talked to? What's the general opinions? Yeah, et cetera, et cetera.
So I haven't personally spoken to any.
All right, so Danielle Ford is saying, what's going on? What are how are we going to get them in? And she says there's no pay raise. That is the biggest problem with getting subs is we're not paying them enough. And then she says, what if there's a problem? She says, are we able to give them a raise, or now is that in charge of the company we're outsourcing this to? All right. These are actionable items that need to be addressed, and I commend Ford for doing it. But again, the real reason we don't have subs is because we don't pay enough. All right. So what this implementation is going to do is it's going to make subs eligible for benefits. If they work 4 weeks at 28 hours a week, that's 4 days. 4 times 7 is 28. The next pay period, they'll be eligible for benefits. Again, remember, if they're working 4 days a week, they're making $100 a day. That's $400 times 4 weeks is $1,600 a month. My rent is more than $1,600 a month. So, full-time sub is going to make $1,600 before taxes, so probably like $1,300 after taxes. You can't even pay your rent with $1,300. That's the reason we have no subs. And then if you just fast forward to 334.10, we'll see some charts. They talked about the budget, which was uninspiring. If there was something I could show you about the waste of money, I would. Excuse me. But take a look at this chart. This is CCSD's attendance and student counts over the past 4 years. They are plummeting. People going to homeschool, people going to online school, people going to private school or non-CCSD charter schools, you're having an effect. The numbers had continuously gone up over the past 15 years. Look at the past 4 years. The numbers are plummeting, and that's CCSD's funding. And yet they keep doing what they're doing, and they're going to be alienating a large population of their customers. And they're going to continue to lose money. And then that guy who got the microphone shut off on him because he's saying we're going to start a classical school and then we're going to start another school that's woke. CCSD is going to be the woke school. They're going to lose half of their students. And private schools and charter schools who are teaching a classical education that are enforcing love and content of character are going to be the new educational business. If we go to 337.30, we'll be able to see their I think it's their budget plan. Anywhere in there. It's on the screen for a long time. It doesn't have to be exact. Yeah, right here you see all the money that they're getting. Additional money. All right? This money is the extra money they're getting. And what's crazy is that none of it is going towards teachers. Hundreds of millions of additional influx of money. Yet we're not going to give the subs a penny more. We're not going to give our teachers a penny more. All this money is going to go towards think tanks and towards research firms and towards, little groups of people, bureaucrats, who are going to discuss ways to improve gifted and talented education, to improve ELL. We've been throwing money at ELL for years, millions, now billions of dollars, and it's not improving. We need to start giving our money to the teachers who are in the classroom to motivate better teachers to want to teach. All right. Guys, the 2-hour episode just covering the board meeting. All right, this is the best I can do. I'm trying to keep you guys informed. The board meeting is so slow. I tried to sum it up, the 4-hour board meeting, into 2 hours with proper commentary, the coverage you only get here on the Johnny Bruce Show. All right, please tell a friend, subscribe. If you're watching on Facebook, please also go to YouTube and subscribe. That really helps me a lot. And a very special episode tonight of coverage of Afghanistan. All right, that'll be at 8 p.m. tonight, Sunday night. And of course, it'll always be available on YouTube. Check out our other episodes. We cover over the past 8 months now. We've been covering CRT, anti-racist curriculum, anti-racist policy, what's going on in our schools, and we're watching out for you guys. I'm giving you the best coverage I can with limited time. Those of you, I forget, one of our listeners was really disappointed I didn't go live or produce a segment last night, Saturday night at 7 p.m. I took my tongue lashing, and I promise you I'm going to do my best to always publish at 7 p.m. right after the PAA podcast, Juggalo Patriot broadcast at 6 p.m. I really appreciate the fact that you were upset I wasn't on at 7 p.m. I will do better, I promise. Thank you so much for watching The Johnny Brew Show. You could always email us at thejohnnybrewshow@gmail.com. You could always call or text us. Text us at 702-501-5304. Thank you for all of you. I saw all of you guys watching. It was a great show, and I will catch you guys next week. God bless our troops. God bless our citizens, and God bless our friends in Afghanistan. And I'll see you next week. Johnny Brew Show. My name is John Brookhagen.